Genesis chapter 34. If you would like to read, just take yourself off mute and let us know what version of the Bible you're going to be reading from.
No, I read
Okay, thank you, Robert. Which version?
the Christian Standard version, Bible CSB.
Okay.
Leah's daughter Dinah, whom Leah bore to Jacob, went out to see some of the young women of the area. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, who was who was the region's chieftain, saw her, he took her and raped her. He became infatuated with Jacob's daughter, Dinah. He loved the young girl and spoke tenderly to her. Get me this girl as my wife, he told his father. Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were with his livestock in the field, he remained silent until they returned. Meanwhile, Shechem's father Hamor came to speak with Jacob. Jacob's sons returned from the field when they heard about the incident. They were deeply grieved and very angry, for Shechem had committed an outrage against Israel by raping Jacob's daughter, and such a thing should not be done. Hamor said to Jacob's son, Shechem had his heart set on her, on your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Live with us. The land is before you. Settle here, move about, and acquire property in it. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brother, grant me this favor. I'll give you whatever you say. Demand of me a high compensation and give. I'll give you whatever you ask me. Just give me the girl to be my wife. But Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully because he had defiled their sister Dinah. We cannot do this thing, they say to them. Giving our sister to an uncircumcised man is a disgrace to us. We will agree with you only on this condition. If all your males are circumcised as we are, then we will give you our daughters. Take your daughters as for ourselves, live with you, and become one people. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughters and go away. The word seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man did not delay doing this because his delight was with Jacob's daughter. He was the most important of all his father's family. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city and spoke to the men in their city. These men are peaceful towards us, they said. Let them live in our land and move about in it, for indeed the region is large enough for them. Let's take their daughters as our wives and give our daughters to them. But the man will agree to live with us and be one people only on this condition. If all our men are circumcised as they are, won't their livestock, their possessions, and all their animals become ours? Only let's agree with them and they will live with us. All the men who had come to the city gates listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and all those men were circumcised. On the third day, when they were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords, went into the unsuspecting city, and killed every male. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with their sword, took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went away. Jacob's sons came to the slaughter and plundered the city because their sister had been defiled. They took their flocks, herds, donkeys, and whatever in the city and in the field. They captured all their possessions, dependents, and wives, and plundered everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simon and Levi, you have brought trouble to me, making me odious to the inhabitants of the land, and the Canaanites and the Perizzites. We are few in number. If they unite against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. But they answered, Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?
Leah and Jacob's daughter is out with some of the women in this area. These are what we would call heathen women. She's out here intermingling socially with these women and finds herself in a situation.
I don't know. Now, this is Leah's daughter. Let's see. Now, I wondered, did Leah sit down with Diana to speak to her about associating with the daughters of the world? You know, I mean, the people of the world. Evidently not. So I just went on and she was bored, I guess, at her house, and so she had to go. she had that desire to go into town and mingle with other girls her age, you know. And this is how she gets in trouble. Some man see her and he wants to just like today, we tell our children, you know, don't hang around so and so, don't go over so and so's house, you know, don't do this, don't do that. Then you're out there, you get yourself in trouble. That's all I have to say about that one.
I add to what Miss Jessie was saying, like she was saying, like if Dina was anybody speak to her, talk to her, like it's like just thinking about today, like, you know, did any like adult, a parent, uncle, aunt, family member, or friend talk to her? Because it in the amplified version, it kind of highlighted that, or I put in parentheses that she went out there unescorted. She went out there to unescorted. She didn't have someone to go with her. She was with the city, the girls of the city are looking for the women of the city or whatnot. And also, it was like, just thinking about what Miss Jessie said, that like any adult, a mother, a father say anything to her, yet still we do find that Jacob, you know, he got word about where he's supposed to be himself. He's supposed to be in Bethel. At the end of the day, he ain't even where he's supposed to be. And his daughter's going to places where she's not supposed to go. That's all I just want to say.
These are Canaanite people. These are people that they should not be intermingling with.
I'm quite sure she wasn't looking for to be raped. He forced himself on her, you know. That's horrific. That's what's the word? Being raped. You know, some man forces himself on you, and you telling him no. I'm quite sure, you know, in her mind, you don't know this guy, but he forced himself on her. So he, you know, and then, you know, a man has that strength where, you know, she couldn't get him off of her.
And let's look at verse 5. So Jacob hears that Shechem has defiled his daughter Dinah. Since his sons were with his livestock in the field, he remained silent until they returned. You would think that some type of anger would have arose in him, but his first reaction or first response was not to go see about his daughter.
When I read this, I think the primary thing that stood out to me as a parent was the kids were running the show. And I know they're adults, you know, children, the adult kids, they're not like little kids, but, you know, from the fact that Shechem or whatever you call him, you know, said, I want this woman, go get her. And father just jumps and responds, but not really deal with that situation. And then Jacob, you know, waiting for his son to come back, kind of like he was like, well, I'm not going to deal with it. I must wait and see what all of us are going to do together or what they're going to do, you know, and then they go off and make the plan and they start negotiating. They take over the whole negotiation process. And they're negotiating with Shechem, with the other son. So to me, it was just like the parents were just letting the kids run the show. And I mean, so to speak, it was kind of for me like, okay, as a parent, That is something that, I need to watch out. But the other interesting part to me was like the kids kind of took on some characteristics of their parents or whoever they were around. Like the sons, they were very elaborate with their planning and how they were going to trick him, just like Jacob's thought process. But then also I look at the son, you know, as a spoiled, I'm taking him maybe as a spoiled brat, as a someone who has a father that's prominent. He's used to telling people this is what I want, and his characteristic and what he did was probably worse than what his father had did, but he had those characteristics, and the same for Jacob's son as well. So that part was interesting to me to kind of see their dynamics.
Yeah, I was gonna say add to it. It does seem like Shechem has because the one for one is I guess the city is he's named after the city or whatnot, but it also lists that uh excuse me, out of all of Hamor's sons, he was the on the hierarchy side, he was the main son with the most powerful voice. And it's kind of like Shechem doesn't let up for the things that he wants. So he took Nina. He pre, pretty is pretty what's it called? He's pretty adamant about his father getting Jacob's daughter to marry, and and when he tried to make a deal with Jacob's sons, he's like, whatever it costs, I can pay it. Just I'll compensate you however much. Nothing's It's like nothing's too much. Just make it happen. So it's like still belittling his actions just to get Dina. And then you have on the other end Jacob, and he's I don't know, from my standpoint, I think I just took it as like Jacob was uh in thought about what to do next, and uh and it's like he knows his sons. His sons come back and kind of like Shayla was saying, took over the negotiation. Yet it's like paying evil for evil though. It's like they're wronging a wrong.
When it comes to the decision making, for me, because I'm thinking about Jacob's age at this time, it kind of seems like he depended on them a lot.
I guess I would say I agree with you on that, but I also think that and believe that leadership transcends age. Like if you're a leader and you have wisdom, that you're going to say something. You may not be able to physically go do something, but you're going to help influence the situation. You're going to give that wisdom, you're going to say something. And he didn't do that.
Like when Jacob kind of was hesitant, or maybe not even hesitant, because it just says Jacob heard about the defiling, and it was verse 5. He heard about Shechem defiling the daughter, and his sons were out with the livestock. He was and he was silent until they returned. Perhaps like when it comes to the customs, and it may be perhaps because he is at an older age, perhaps he's wanting to see how the next family seeds, the family line, or his next generation will handle the circumstance. Because I was just thinking about the scripture. It does mention Jacob as Israel, so it's like how would they carry on the family name of being Israel, that lineage? So I was just thinking about that, like how would they handle? Of course, we see how they handled it, and then we'll keep reading about what happens next.
Let's talk about Satan and his little tricky self. So we can see, even with Hamor's speech, how he proposes that they intermarry. This is Satan's attempt to always try to come in and pollute the godly line in some type of a way. Although these boys made the wrong decision by murdering somebody, at the end of the day, Satan's attempt is still thwarted. So although we may not like, some people may read it and be like, oh, they wrong for that. We may not like what they did or how they did it. But let us not forget that God's plan is always going to prevail. And sometimes it may get messy because the enemy is always going to try to get in there and thwart God's plan in some type of a way. At the end of the day, God's plan and promise and what he said is still going to prevail no matter how messy the situation gets.